Hello, everyone. This is Michaela, and you're listening to the End All the Things podcast. As a life coach and facilitator, I work with individuals and groups to empower their best selves to shine to the betterment of all involved. My goal is always to bring you closer to trusting the voice inside of you that is authentically yours. My job here is no different. In my journey through life, I continue to meet people who use their authenticity, their gifts, to grow, change, and serve through professional and personal endeavors. These people and their stories become my gift to you, for I cannot keep a good thing to myself, and I believe that they may inspire a part of your story to evolve. All right, so my gift for you today, my friends, is the freebie. You know, everyone says you have to have a freebie, so I made a freebie. And I decided, since I am giving that away to people who show up to my website for free, as an introduction to me, to the work I do, as a gift to let you try for yourself what it's like to work with a coach in this manner. So I say to you this: are you tired of feeling like life is beyond your control and that everything comes with frustration? Are you tired of feeling like you're running on a hamster wheel? If so, I want you to listen to today's episode. We get so easily buried in the doing of the day-to-day that we forget what we're doing it for. We lose our perspective and our purpose. We lose ourselves. When, in fact, my dear friends, we should be loving ourselves. So this pre-recorded webinar is designed to shed light on those parts of life that you are tolerating and to build repeatable, safe steps that move beyond your obstacles. In all the work I do, we first talk about our awareness, we talk about our boundaries, and then we talk about cultivating the courage and the confidence to live them out, feeling safe, feeling seen, feeling joyful. So when you listen to this, please go into the show notes. You will find there a link to the free printable journal that I've created that aligns with this material. Check it out, print it out, pull it up on your screen, but it's there to help guide you and give you the practice. So feel free to pause me anytime you need to stop and think about the questions. All right, so without further ado, I offer to you, what are you tolerating? And all the things. So let's get this party started. Ladies and gentlemen, it is such an honor to have you join me today. It is an honor because when I have an opportunity to share with you tips and tricks, insights that will help life move through smoother, faster, easier with less stress, that is where we can find joy. We cannot avoid the stress, we cannot avoid all the noise, but we can manage it differently. So what we're going to do today is we're going to celebrate the heck out of the fact that you showed up to join with this group to make one part or maybe many parts of your life just that much better. The way this is going to go, I'm going to give you a quick presentation. I'll walk you through some of the ways that my brain works and the things that inspire me to move beyond, to choose my hard. And we're going to do so in about 30 minutes. So let's get started with, what are you tolerating? Let me switch my screen. So we're going to start this with a quick introduction of what are we doing here? What are we going to do here? And why don't we get started? So what are you tolerating? This is a question that I have asked many times on social media, calls with clients, and in my general conversations, but most importantly, of myself. I am regularly saying to myself, Michaela, what are you tolerating? What part of this are you forcing yourself into? Which part of this is not authentically yours? And when I find something good, it is my distinct honor to share it with you. So first things first, we'll do a quick introduction. We'll go over the objective. We'll take a moment to redefine joy, and I'll ask you to buy into my definition for the next little bit. We'll talk about the timeline. There is none, by the way. And then we'll give a quick summary. And at the end, I have a special offer for you. So let's get started. So, my friends, we so easily get buried in the doing of the day-to-day that we forget what we're doing it for. How many times a day do we go through and we're like, wait, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? Oh, crap, I meant to be blah, blah, blah. This happens when we lose perspective and purpose. And when we lose our perspective and our purpose, we lose a part of ourselves. When, in contrast, we should be loving ourselves. It is this self-love, this self-awareness, this willingness to care for and nurture ourselves that gives us that feeling of being empty and tired and depleted when we should be alive and vivacious and engaged. So this webinar is designed to shed light on those parts of life that you are tolerating and give you some clues to help build steps to move beyond those obstacles. Because an obstacle is just an obstacle. It's not a barrier. It's not a wall. It's something that we can move beyond. And if it is a wall, let's talk about how to break it down a little bit. So the primary goal of today's session, and really all the things, is to find joy and to give joy. It is the way that I look at life. It is how much can I give? How much can I serve while holding myself sacred and getting that giving in return? The more that I give, the more that I get. The more that I give, the more that I get. So this is not about being selfish where you simply look within yourself. It is actually looking bigger than that. How can my gifts, how can my time, how can my energy best be used in service to both me and the bigger picture? So my first question to you, and what you'll find as a coach, unfortunately, I don't have the answers. Only you have the answers. This is your one unique and precious life. So I can't tell you what to do. What I do is ask a lot of questions. Now, these questions come from experience. Often they come with a little guidance or prompting to get you thinking in different ways, to get you saying, I hadn't really considered it that way. So my first question I have for you, I know I already asked you what you're tolerating, but this is how we get there. What brought you here today? When you saw my social media post, or you had a conversation with me, or you saw something in the newsletter, and you said, that's for me, what brought you here today? Something in that moment is an indicator. Did you think of a family member, a colleague at work, a health or wellness issue? Did you think of hopes for the future? Did you think of, I don't know, tolerating doing all the grocery shopping for your house? Who knows? Something brought you here today, and I'd like you to take a minute to hone in on that. And as we do, this is not to dwell. This is not to say, oh, that thing is so terrible. This is to say, that thing deserves a little light, because if I'm tolerating it day in and day out, let me put some light on it and see what edges can be trimmed, how we can maneuver this to make it work, even if not for us, at least less against us. So, as you think of what brought you here today, I would like you to close your eyes and take a moment to yourself. Just a quick moment. Take a deep inhale and exhale, let it in and out. And as you settle into that thought that brought you here, take another deep breath. And very quickly, give yourself a little scroll through memory lane. How did that come to be? Why am I doing it this way? How am I in this situation? And then come to this moment. Why are you tolerating it today? What is it doing to you? How is it costing you? How is it impacting you? And then look beyond. This is where it gets fun. Look beyond and say, I wonder what life would be like if I weren't tolerating this thing in this way. What would life be like? And you go through that process of, how did I get here? What am I doing here? And where do I go? So before we can get into meeting the objective of finding joy and giving joy, I'd like to take a minute and introduce you to my definition of joy. This is a definition derived over time from some of the greatest thinkers, religious, philosophical, or otherwise. And I've compacted it together because a lot of times when I say I am the founder of Joy Inc., people say, oh, that sounds cute. But joy is not easy. It is not always covered in glitter, although I do prefer it to be. I prefer most things covered in glitter. But joy is not this ethereal, surreal feeling of happiness. That's elation. That's happiness. And joy is certainly not found. It is not the thing that we feel when we're experiencing suffering. But the reality is, it's there in both parts. Joy is a divine gift that we are born with, that we are here to explore. So the definition I have come up with for you is this. Joy is not the absence of suffering, nor is it merely the experience of happiness. Joy is the journey we take and the light we create despite the suffering and happiness. Yes, I said despite, because if we're only living in happiness and every measure, every metric we hold is about how happy can we be all day, then when life and its many, many noises, its many, many tigers, its many, many obstacles come our way, we find ourselves wallowing and without perspective, and we lose that passion and that purpose for which we are born to fulfill. So herein lies my definition of joy. Joy is not found when things are perfect. Joy is found when they are imperfect, yet we know that there is something powerful within us, that we have what it takes to get through, and that we can do big things. So that's where I find joy. I'm going to let that sit with you for a minute. And I'll ask you to go back to that question of what brought you here. If what brought you here was something that is frustrating you, that you are tolerating, I ask you to now look at that looking forward picture, that looking forward vision, and say, in that way of what would life be like if this tolerance weren't so pervasive? Start to see how that can bring happiness, even if it's a small, small progression toward the goal. It is the power and the agency to make choices in life about how we react and respond to the happiness and suffering that bring us joy. So here we go. So who am I? I'm a lot of things. I hope I continue to become a lot of things. I am a teacher. I am a social worker. I am in marketing. I'm a vice president of a garage door manufacturing company. I am a sandwich artist. I am a bartender. I am all these careers that I have had. And those are part of my things. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. I'm a friend. I'm a daughter. I'm a sister. I'm a neighbor. I'm a community participant. I'm an advocate. I am a lot of things. But what I know for sure is that I am on a journey. I am on a journey to fulfill my greatest self, to let go of the things that hold me back, and to help bring people along with me. However, in all these wonderful jobs and roles I was playing, I found myself very much joyless. I thought it was gone. I thought it was empty. I thought I was only living to serve those roles. I was tolerating a life without joy, but I had no idea. I couldn't say it. I couldn't acknowledge it, because if I did, I would have to do something about it. And if doing something about it meant compromising my ability to fulfill that role, there was no way I was going to risk that disconnection. But at one point, after a couple of years of working with one coach and then another coach, I landed with the coach I work with today. This is probably 5 years ago. And she said to me, Michaela, what are you tolerating? This question, my friends, changed my life. It truly, truly changed my life. I remember the butterflies and the flutters and the angst because I could not say these things out loud. I could not say that my life was wonderful and beautiful, but I didn't enjoy it. I couldn't say that I was happy. I couldn't say that I was sad because I wasn't willing or able to make the change. But what I found myself saying, and it came after the butterflies got in formation and started flying the right way, I said, I'm tolerating a life without joy. And when I said this, I was deadpan. I was stoic. It was so true, but I felt so sullen, yet downright certain. And in this one giant moment, I felt one part pathetic and one part deeply inspired. I couldn't stop thinking about joy, and I couldn't stop thinking about my apparent lack of it. So I set out to find it. I worked with my coaches. I challenged my beliefs. I read a lot. I got certified as a life coach. I practiced the tactics. I quit my job, and I trudged forward on the messy, powerful, tear-filled, growth-filled, life-changing journey toward my authentic self. And today, I cannot tell you how much I appreciate that you have chosen to step into this journey with me. So why is this important now? Why did I quit my job just over a year ago? Because I could no longer tolerate what was happening in our world. And I could not tolerate that I wasn't doing anything to fix it. So why now? We are not okay. We are not okay. I hear so many conversations from people who grew up at this generation or this decade and said, oh, but we turned out fine. And I challenge that. Not only culturally are we divided and sad and scared and intolerant of one another, but we are 400 times more prescribed than 20 years ago. I can't go to the doctor without being offered a prescription. I worked in a group home when I was a social worker, and my girls, one of them had 7 prescriptions in the morning, 5 at night, and 2 during the day. And it blew my mind. She was 13 years old. And if we can do different work, if we can look at that differently, what can we do to get that number down, to take only the prescriptions that we need, because we're building wellness in a variety of other ways? Brings me to the next point. In 2021, I'm going to get choked up real quick. 48,000 Americans died by suicide. Suicide is the 11th leading cause of death in the US every day. And every day, approximately 132 Americans die by suicide. There is 1 suicide death in the US every 10.9 minutes. So in our time together today, 3 people will have chosen to end their suffering. I don't believe that people die by suicide or choose suicide because they want to die. I think they want to stop suffering. And when our measures are set to happiness is so high up here and sadness is so far down here, I'll never get to the other end of the scale. Let's just stay. And I want to challenge that, because we are not okay. And even when we get into these very drastic things, and I apologize, it just really hits home, because there's work that we can do for this. The last point, and a little less intense, but equally as impactful, is more than 1 billion people worldwide are obese. 650 million adults, 340 million adolescents, and 39 million children. This number is still increasing, and the WHO estimates that by 2025, approximately 167 million people, adults and children, will become less healthy because they are overweight or obese. What does this mean? This means that we are living further and further and further from our authenticity. We are eating ourselves, we are drinking ourselves, we are smoking ourselves, we are stressing ourselves, we are fearing ourselves to the point of catastrophe. We are not okay. I was not okay. We need to be striving to be better, even if we're not looking at staggering statistics. So whatever the thing is in your life, it's looking at how we can improve the conditions to make it less bad. How do we bring this 400 times more prescribed down to 300? Doing the work. And that's what we're here to start today. So when I look at these things, I can look at them as, oh my God, 400 times, it's only ever going to go up. But if I choose to see things differently, if I give it a different perspective, and if I say, well, that's one way to look at it, but I can also look for, how do we get it down? How do we make those shifts? What metrics are improving in a way that could potentially counteract that? When I look at the obesity and I see the research that's being done on child obesity and the work that our government, our medical systems are doing to try to positively impact this, I can be hopeful and I can put energy into that. But I have to be willing to see things differently. If I only see the black and white, I miss the spectrum of colors in between. So my call to you today is to give this mantra a try. I am willing to see things differently. What does willingness take? We're going to dig into the word willing for a moment. Notice it says, it doesn't say, I am going to see things differently. Going to see things differently is a pass fail. You either do or you don't. But as we learn a new skill, as we get into a new mindset, as we start to change behaviors, it has to be incremental. If we jump right in, go cold turkey on the thing, a lot of times we fail. And while I will celebrate that because there's data to be taken, there's information to be gleaned, looking at it as, how do I get there, takes a willingness. And if you're not willing to participate in your own growth and change, I got news for you. You ain't never going to do it. So this mantra, I am willing to see things differently, is an invitation for you to actually look at life differently. Okay. We can stop here, that thing that brought you here, and it could stay here forever. Or you could look beyond and say, what else could it be? How could I positively impact? How could I shift the way I see it to make it hurt me less? Because that's what we're all about. How do we make it hurt me less so I can put my energy out into something positive? So this brings me to the question of the day, right? I told you I had a lot of questions for you, and you'll see they don't stop here. What are you tolerating? before we even get into going further about what you're tolerating, because it's very easy to think the big things, right? I'm tolerating financial issues. I'm tolerating, I don't love my job. I'm tolerating the big things, maybe a relationship you're in. But it's hard to see those big things as manageable when so many of the smaller little things consistently get in our way and clog up our day. So right now we are going to switch screens and I'm going to show you a quick video. I love this video for a few reasons. Number one, it came to me from a dear friend of mine who is 11, and I want to let you all know you can learn a lot from 11-year-olds, even when they're showing you a 7-minute video of pranks, because we watch the first 7 minutes, then the second, third, and on and on and on. So this is a video. It's a shampoo prank video. You may have seen something similar, but I'm going to share it with you, and we'll talk about why in a minute. But I learned this. I had this realization from my experience of being open to what 11-year-olds had to share with me. So just keep an open mind. I have to be willing to see things differently.
Whoa! I'm sorry. We got a prank right there. You got a camera right there. Come here. It's a prank show. Calm down. There's a camera right there. I'm sorry, man. Oh my God. Get out.
But I use this to remind us that we have choices. And now I don't know how I would react in that scenario, because you're in the zone, you're in the experience, you think you know you can expect, and then things get weird, right? And you saw he flexed, hit the wall. I've done all those things. I still kind of do all those things. I probably still will, but it's about slowing down that window and saying, okay, I'm tolerating the shampoo. Why is it never ending? And being able to pause and say, what's different? What's in my control? How can I see this differently? And had he done that, he probably could have stepped back and said, it's either the water, maybe I can walk over and try another shower, or maybe I can step out of the way, maybe I can wipe my face and tolerate a little soap. But he continued in the tension of the moment. He continued to go with it. He was tolerating a lack of understanding about what was actually happening. He was not looking upstream. Somebody was throwing garbage, somebody was throwing stress down his way, and he just kept dealing with it instead of stepping out and saying, that's interesting. So I'm going to flip-flop back over here. Wait a minute, where am I? Okay. And I'm going to go back to my screen share. So what are you tolerating? What is your shampoo? What is the thing that is relentlessly coming your way that you continue to tolerate? And I bring this example up because one of the most important things that I teach, I preach, I share is you have a choice. In every situation, you have a choice. You may not have a lot of choices, but you have a choice. So the stimulus comes at you, and then you respond. I ask you to stand in the middle and pause. So between stimulus and response, you have a choice. And this choice makes all the difference. The questions I ask when we have this conversation, are you seeing things as not only clear, but as they are and as they could be? And are you seeing things, as they could simply not be, right? Are you only seeing the tunnel, not the light? Are you sure this is your thing to see? Meaning projects, stresses, life comes at us and we feel like it's our responsibility to manage all of them, to mitigate or to handle all of them. And I say so many times, is this your responsibility to manage? So when you think about what you're tolerating, if you're tolerating that you have to do a certain routine or fulfill a certain task that doesn't serve you, why are you doing it? If you have to, let's think about ways that we can make it a little more fun. All right. Are you impacting the outcome to get you closer to your goals? Meaning, I get asked a lot to be on boards and on committees, and I can't do them all. I want to. There's a part of me that if I didn't have all these other roles and only wanted to support the community and similar efforts, I would love to do that. But that would be a choice between me spending my time on my family, on my health, on my business, on my own personal growth. And I'm not willing to compromise those. So I have to say no. And it stinks. But I understand that the no comes from a place of genuine desire for me and those most important parts of me to grow. Another question I ask is, are you filtered by fear or by love? Oprah says everything we do is driven by two emotions, fear and love. Are we taking a client that we know is out of alignment with who we truly are because we feel we need the money? I would ask, what's the cost of that? Are we taking the client because we're desperate and we need the money? Because that happens. And if that's the case, we have to understand that as we engage with the client. And as things change, as things appear, build in healthy boundaries. There is nothing that should make us feel unsafe. But if we get into a situation because of fear, it throws us out of balance. But if we choose that client because we love our business, we love our work, we love our family, and we want to push it forward, and we know that we can cognitively, consciously, and actively work with this person, then that makes it more tolerable, less of an intolerance, right? Are you relying on choices that once served you and no longer do? My dear friends, I am a reformed people pleaser. I still please people quite often and with vigor, but it's not to be a people pleaser. It's not because I want their favor, their approval, their response. It's because it serves me, and serving others serves me. But it doesn't mean that every post I see, every article I read, every sad story I encounter as I move through this life is my responsibility. I have to choose where I put my time and energy, for they are the only two non-renewable resources that we truly need. Are you tolerating what you see? Meaning, when I look back at my life before I answered this question if I was tolerating a life without joy, I was tolerating the fact that I wasn't actively engaged with my children, with my marriage, with my family, with my friends, because when I started hiding my sadness, my fear, my worries, my hopes, I started hiding the truth of who I am. And until I saw the truth of who I am as having some value beyond what I thought I was holding on to, I was stuck. I was tolerating watching myself live through this life. And I needed to be willing to see things differently. I needed to be willing to say, you know what? I can speak my truth and I can introduce this to people without snipping out the connection. It's a process. It's slow. It's bumpy, really bumpy to reintroduce or repropose boundaries in relationships. But I promise you, you're totally worth it. And in doing so, what we find when we build in boundaries that serve us and are done with respect to other people, there is no one-way liberation. And as we liberate ourselves, we so too liberate others. As we ask the question, are you willing to see things differently? This is where I look to you and I ask you to dig in a little bit. What brought you here today? What are you tolerating? Are you willing to see things differently? If so, what gives you energy? What gives you energy? What nets in the positive feelings? What energizes you? Even if it's not the doing of the laundry, but the getting it done. right? Maybe it's not the research for the project, but it's the giving of the project, right? And it's how do we build that energy up and push that forward and create more of that? In a conversation with someone yesterday who's filing for a loan, I said, "Are you smiling?" No, this stuff sucks. Paperwork sucks. Smile as you go through the process and say, "I can't wait to see what all this effort brings. I cannot wait to see what the process will be," because getting that desired result is energy force, right? It gets behind you. So as you think about what gives you energy, and sometimes it's a hug, right? Sometimes it's scrolling through TikTok for 20 minutes. If that gives you energy, do that. But be conscious about it, savor it, and then create more things in life that fuel that energy, because that energy is precious and you want more of it. So as you think about that, then you have to look at the converse side. What makes you tired? What's an energy drain? What pulls you down? What takes more effort to go in than you get out of it? This is where we have to look really closely at the calendar, at our events, at how we spend our time. Are you spinning your wheels to make you happy? Or are you spinning your wheels to give you a pause? Or are you spinning your wheels so that as soon as you get traction, you can go? Looking at the things that make you tired, you say, well, why am I doing them? Does this serve me? Who does this serve? Is this my responsibility? Could somebody else be doing this? Ooh, and what would happen if I didn't actually do it? Chew on that one for a minute. Because for me, I use the example a lot about the dishes. I could do the dishes 17 times a day and think I'm doing something magnificent. And the only person in the house who gives a flip about the dishes is me. So I was working all these 17, 5-10 minutes to serve an idea that I was a good mom, that I was a good housekeeper, that I was a good wife. But I was the only one evaluating myself. And the dishes were never done. So I failed at being good at keeping the dishes done. I had to learn that there's value in doing them once and celebrating the heck out of it, because doing the dishes 17 times a day made me tired. So the next one I have for you is, what is the cost of what you're tolerating? For me, in that example, if I'm doing the dishes 17 times a day, and I'm not exaggerating, especially during COVID, and I'm spending 5 or 10 minutes a day on them, I don't do math as well, but that's a lot of time. And when I shifted that energy, I found I could put that time into something that was an investment, not just a spinning wheels activity. So that's one way to look at it. The second way to look at it as, is it a promotion that you want? Are you tired of being overlooked for promotions at work? What is the cost of that? And that comes down to a more financial cost. If you are tolerating not using your voice to speak up for what you want, there's always a cost to that. And if that's the case, we then have to look and say, what could the value be? What could the value be if I was tolerating those dishes a little bit less? What could the value be if I said, I'm not going to stay silent about my desires and my passions at work? What could the potential outcome be if not only were you willing to see things differently, but you actively pursued doing things differently? And this is where the question of what are you tolerating is so important. If I said to you, what do you want out of life? Well, we would go, I want to grow up and rocking chair on the porch at the beach, or maybe in Arizona, wherever, with the person I love. That's great. But that's so far off in advance. And there's so many things that need to be done to get there. So when we look in today's moment, in this exact moment right now, what are you tolerating? What are you tolerating? Because clearing that way means that on that front porch, on that rocking chair, sits an authentic person who lived and explored life with curiosity and a willingness to move beyond what's holding them back. So to do this, we look at what can you do differently. I love this. I love to explore what you tried before. What's worked? What hasn't worked? I love to dig into those things that didn't work. I wanted to be the kind of person that got up and went to the gym 5 days a week. What I realized is I'm not that person. I like to be quiet and slow in the morning. I don't want to get up and rush. I like to work out at home in the morning. I learned that. But I only learned that by exploring why I wasn't going to the gym in the morning. What I found is looking at what doesn't work gives us clues into what could work. I love to look at what's worked for you and others on the same way. What did work? Tell me a time in life when you were successful in moving beyond. And for some people, that starts with just make your bed every day. Get into a habit of making your bed every day. And then, I don't know, try washing your face every night before bed. And I know that sounds simple, but it's creating that routine and saying, I feel better because I've done this. I can do big things. And when you start with the small things, then you can build in those stronger, bigger, different things. And then I always have to ask, what are you willing to risk? And a lot of times it's simply, I'm willing to risk being wrong about what I once believed. I'm willing to risk ruffling the feathers of people I love because both of our experiences in this relationship deserve better. I am willing to risk a certain amount of money every month to go to the gym, to work with a life coach, to see a therapist, to explore this part of myself, to take a karate class. What are you willing to risk? All of that takes time, energy, resources, and intention. And this is where working with someone like a coach gives you that accountability to help celebrate those things that don't work, because we're not going to get it all perfect, because there is no perfect. We don't know yet the best way for you to live your journey. It's yours, uniquely, 100% positively yours. But things do work for you. You have made it to this point. So how do we get more of that? And along the way, as you take those risks, you don't have to do it alone. We can practice, we role play conversations, we get into seeing yourself making it through the scenario, seeing yourself not making it through the scenario, busting through the fear with either action or mindset. So this is where I say to you, my dear friends, choose your hard. Staying the same is hard. Change is hard. Choose your hard. What this means is we all have these choices, right? Stimulus and response. But when we are clear on what's important to us and what we value and our worth, if we even fathom that we have enough self-worth to get us started, that all grows, right? But staying in this place, why did you show up today? What made you push register? What are you tolerating in this space? And what would life look like on the other side if things were different? Because you could stay in the same place. I could have stayed that woman, that faded flower, with a life that was filled with all potential for joy and beauty. And I could have continued to live joylessly. I could have continued to be empty and vacant inside. But that was really hard. But I also knew that changing was really hard. But I had to choose which version of my hards a future version of myself would appreciate. And the woman that wants to sit on a rocking chair, looking at the beach or a lake, wants to fully be authentic and know that I did everything in my power to live a life wholeheartedly. Hey there, amazing listeners of And All the Things. Thank you for being on this journey with me. The fact that you're still here, I have to assume this podcast has sparked your curiosity, encouraging you to think of life beyond your current boundaries. Now it's time to take that energy and channel it into a transformative journey where boundless joy awaits. Introducing The Course for Joy, brought to you by Joy Enterprises and me, Michaela, your joy coach. Life gets busy, I get it, but self-care matters and should not take a back seat. That is why we've crafted a 4-week self-guided adventure to seamlessly fit into your routine. In just 15 minutes, a few times each week, our enlightening video lessons and engaging workbooks will guide you through self-discovery and bring you closer to growth. As a special bonus, when you enroll in the Course for Joy, you'll receive an exclusive 50-minute live coaching session. We'll celebrate your progress and create a roadmap for your journey ahead. Are you ready to paint your life with vibrant joy and purpose? Visit myjoycoach.com/course to learn more about the transformative Course for Joy. Let's amplify your joy and ignite your purpose together. And that's a wrap on another episode of And All the Things. If you enjoyed today's show, please like and follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and YouTube. If you really liked it, please go ahead and rate it. Then think about who in your life might also need to hear it and any of the other episodes we have shared. Then share it with them. When you find something meaningful, something valuable, you've got to share it and pay it forward to those you care for. Thanks for joining us, and follow along on Instagram at MyJoyCoach to see more of me, your host, Michaela Birdyshaw. And as always, make it a great day.